What if I told you that in exactly 47 minutes from now, a shy 24-year-old dishwasher would walk into a boardroom filled with millionaire investors, carry a secret that could save 500 families from financial ruin, and deliver a single sentence that would change corporate history forever? What if I told you that this same young woman had been invisible for 6 months, dismissed, overlooked, treated like a ghost in her own workplace, until one forgotten USB drive and one perfect cup of coffee revealed a truth so powerful that it would shatter every assumption about worth, talent, and destiny? And what if I told you that everything hung on a moment of choice? A moment when she had to decide, stay safe in the shadows, or risk everything to step into the light. Now, I need you to imagine something with me. Picture the most intimidating building in your city. Glass towers reaching toward the sky, marble lobbies that echo with the footsteps of the powerful, elevators that carry dreams up and broken hopes down. This is TransTech Tower, and it's about to become the stage for a transformation so unexpected, so moving, that you'll never look at service workers the same way again. Because what you're about to hear isn't just Lily Moore's story. It's the story of every person who's ever felt invisible, every dreamer who's been told they don't belong, every quiet soul who's been waiting for permission to shine. And I promise you this, by the time we reach the end of this journey together, you'll understand why sometimes the most powerful revolutions begin not with a roar, but with a whisper. So settle in, because what happens next will challenge everything you think you know about success, courage, and the extraordinary power hidden in ordinary moments. This is the story of how one forgotten girl stepped out of the shadows and into legend. And it starts right now. The early morning hours in TransTech Tower are sacred. Before the chaos of corporate ambition fills the hallways, before the symphony of ringing phones and clicking keyboards begins, there's a moment of pure possibility. It's 5:47 a.m., and in the coffee shop on the ground floor, something remarkable is about to unfold. 24-year-old Lily Moore arrives at work each morning at 6:30, a full hour before the coffee shop opens. She unlocks the door to her quiet world, a world where she washes dishes, restocks supplies, and tends to the gleaming espresso machine that sits unused in the corner like a sleeping giant. But this isn't just any espresso machine. It's a La Marzocco, a beautiful professional-grade coffee maker that once belonged to her father. The brass fittings have lost some of their shine, and a thin layer of dust tells the story of 6 months of silence. You see, Lily carries a wound that many of us understand all too well. 3 years ago, she was studying at the prestigious École du Café in Paris, learning the art of coffee craftsmanship from masters who treated each cup like a prayer. She was good. No, she was exceptional. Her professors said she had the gift, that rare ability to taste the story in every bean, to understand what the coffee wanted to become. Let me tell you about the Lily who existed before grief changed everything. In Paris, she wasn't invisible. She was the student who would arrive at École du Café before dawn, not because she had to, but because she loved the way the empty kitchen felt like a sanctuary. Her hands moved with confidence then, creating art in foam, coaxing flavors from beans that others couldn't even taste. Her mentor, Pierre Dubois, a master barista with 40 years of experience, once told the entire class, "In 30 years of teaching, I have seen perhaps 5 students who possess the true gift." Lily Moore is one of them. She doesn't just make coffee. She channels emotion through espresso. She had dreams then, plans to open a small cafe near the Seine, where she would serve coffee that told stories, where every cup would be a conversation between her soul and the soul of the person drinking it. She even had a name picked out, Café de Rêves, the coffee of dreams. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Her father's small import business collapsed overnight when a major client defaulted on payments. The family faced bankruptcy, and worse, her father suffered a massive stroke when he learned they would lose everything. Robert Moore, the man who had first introduced Lily to coffee when she was just 7 years old, who had saved every penny to send her to Paris, was suddenly fighting for his life in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed like mechanical vultures. Lily rushed home from Paris, trading her dreams for duty, her passion for survival. She spent 3 weeks sleeping in a hospital chair, holding her father's hand, whispering to him about all the coffee they would make together when he got better. But deep down, she knew he was already saying goodbye. The day her father passed, he pressed something into her hands, the keys to his beloved La Marzocco. His voice was so weak she had to lean close to hear him. "Promise me," he whispered, his eyes still holding all the love he'd ever felt for her. "Promise me you'll make coffee that connects hearts again. Don't let the gift die with me, little bean." Little bean. That's what he'd called her since childhood, because she was small but full of potential, like a coffee bean waiting to become something magnificent. But grief, my dear listener, has a way of stealing our voices. For 6 months, Lily has worked at Transtech's coffee shop, washing dishes, restocking shelves, and watching other people brew coffee while her father's machine sits silent, waiting. She's betrayed her promise, buried her gift under layers of fear and self-doubt. She's become invisible, the quiet girl who keeps her head down, who says "excuse me" when others don't even notice she's there. The corporate world flows around her like water around stone, barely acknowledging her presence. Yet every morning, as she dusts that La Marzocco, something stirs inside her. A memory of her father's hands guiding hers when she was 7, showing her how to smell the beans, how to listen for the perfect crack during roasting. The scent of freshly ground beans that once filled their small apartment with warmth and possibility. The sound of steam dancing through perfectly textured milk, creating the cappuccinos that made their neighbors line up outside their door on Sunday mornings. Sometimes, when she thinks no one is looking, she places her hand on the machine's warm surface and whispers, "I'm sorry, Papa. I'm so sorry I forgot how to be brave." But what Lily doesn't know, what she can't possibly know as she stands there in the pre-dawn darkness, surrounded by the ghosts of her abandoned dreams, is that this particular Tuesday is about to demand every ounce of courage she thought she'd lost. This is the Tuesday that will force her to choose between the safety of invisibility and the terrifying beauty of being truly seen. This is the Tuesday that will prove her father's faith in her was never misplaced. This particular Tuesday starts like any other until it doesn't. 7 o'clock sharp, and Transtech Tower is already humming with activity. Lily watches through the coffee shop window as people in expensive suits hurry past, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of smartphones, their conversations peppered with corporate jargon that sounds like a foreign language. But Lily has learned to see what others miss. She notices the way the woman from accounting clutches her purse a little tighter on Mondays, probably stretching her budget until payday. She observes how the young intern from the marketing department always orders the cheapest drink but looks longingly at the pastries. She sees the security guard, Carl Mitchell, who always has a kind word for everyone but eats his lunch alone. Carl is different from the others. At 65, he moves with the careful dignity of someone who's seen both triumph and loss. There's something in his eyes, a depth that speaks of stories untold. While others rush past him as if he's part of the furniture, Lily has caught him watching her, and in those moments, she feels seen. What she doesn't know is that Carl Mitchell carries his own secret pain. 5 years ago, he owned a beloved coffee shop chain called Mitchell's Brew, 7 locations across the city, each one a gathering place where the coffee was excellent and the conversation was better. He had built his empire from nothing, starting with a single espresso cart outside the university, growing it into a business that employed 43 people and served as the heart of neighborhoods across town. Carl knew coffee the way a sommelier knows wine. He could tell you the altitude where beans were grown just by their aroma, could predict the weather by how the espresso pulled on any given morning. His customers weren't just customers, they were extended family. He knew their names, their orders, their stories. Mrs. Henderson always got a decaf latte with an extra shot of vanilla, because it reminded her of her late husband's aftershave. College student Marcus got his morning Americano for free whenever Carl noticed him digging for change in his backpack pockets. But then Eleanor, his wife of 37 years, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The woman who had stood beside him through every late night, every financial struggle, every moment of building their dream together, suddenly needed him more than the business ever could. Carl sold Mitchell's brew without hesitation. Every location, every piece of equipment, every recipe that had taken decades to perfect, he gave it all up to spend Eleanor's final months holding her hand, reading to her, making her the simple coffee she could still stomach when nothing else would stay down. The day Eleanor passed, she made him promise something that still echoes in his heart. Find someone else who has the gift, Carl. Don't let what we learned about love and service die with us. Now, he works as a security guard, not because he needs the money. The sale of his business left him comfortable, but because he needs the gentle rhythm of watching over others. And he's been watching Lily Moore with the keen eye of someone who recognizes talent, even when it's buried under grief. He's seen her handle coffee beans with reverence when she thinks no one is looking. He's noticed the way she cleans the espresso equipment with the care of someone who understands its true value. Most tellingly, he's observed her standing in front of the La Marzocco, her hand resting on its surface like she's communicating with an old friend. Carl knows grief. He knows what it looks like when someone is carrying a dream they're too afraid to pursue. And he's been waiting for the right moment to encourage this young woman who reminds him so much of himself at her age, talented, dedicated, but convinced that her dreams are too big for someone like her. At 7:15, the phone rings. Tom, the coffee shop manager, answers with his usual cheerful voice, but Lily watches his expression change. His shoulders slump. His free hand runs through his hair. A gesture she's learned means trouble. Sarah, Tom's voice rises with concern. How bad is it? Sarah Martinez is 28 years old and has been the head barista at Transtech's coffee shop for 3 years. She's the kind of employee every manager dreams of: reliable, skilled, personable, and absolutely essential. She knows every regular customer's order by heart, can work the morning rush single-handedly, and has never called in sick. Until today, Sarah had been fighting what she thought was a mild stomach bug for 2 days, pushing through her shifts with determination and antacids. But last night, what started as minor discomfort became violent food poisoning that left her weak, dehydrated, and absolutely unable to stand, much less craft the perfect lattes that Transtech's demanding clientele expects. Food poisoning, Tom says into the phone, his voice tight with growing panic. No, don't worry about coming in. Rest and get better. But even as he says the supportive words, Tom's mind is racing through the implications. It's Tuesday, executive meeting day. The morning rush will be brutal, but more terrifying than that is the certainty that at exactly 8:15 a.m., Jack Turner will walk through that door expecting his perfect cappuccino. Lily feels a chill that has nothing to do with the morning air. She knows what this means. She can see it in Tom's face, in the way his hands shake slightly as he hangs up the phone, in the way he looks around the empty coffee shop like a general surveying a battlefield with no soldiers. The weight of disaster settles over the room like fog. In 30 minutes, the morning rush will begin. In exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes, the most demanding customer in the building will expect perfection, and there's no one qualified to deliver it. Or is there? Sarah is the head barista, the one person who keeps the coffee shop running smoothly. She's reliable, skilled, and absolutely essential, especially on Tuesdays, when the executive team holds their weekly meetings and demands nothing less than perfection. Food poisoning, Tom says into the phone. No, don't worry about coming in. Rest and get better. Lily feels a chill that has nothing to do with the morning air. She knows what this means. Tom hangs up the phone and turns to face the empty coffee shop. His usually confident demeanor crumbles as he realizes the magnitude of the problem. In 30 minutes, the morning rush will begin. In exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes, Jack Turner, the CEO of Medicore Tech, will walk through that door expecting his perfect cappuccino. Jack Turner isn't just any customer. He's a man whose reputation for perfectionism is legendary throughout the building. 3 years ago, he fired an entire catering company because they serve him lukewarm coffee before a board meeting, stating publicly that if you can't get the small things right, how can I trust you with the big ones? His morning cappuccino isn't just a drink. It's a ritual that sets the tone for his entire day. Extra shot, precisely 150 degrees, with microfoam so perfect it looks like silk. He arrives at exactly 8:15 a.m., never a minute early, never a minute late, with the punctuality of Swiss watch and expectations that match. But more than that, and this is something Tom knows, but Lily doesn't, today is the most important day of Jack Turner's professional life. Medicore Tech, the company he built from a garage startup into a potential medical revolution, is hanging by a thread. Their groundbreaking AI diagnostic software, which can detect diseases years before symptoms appear, has been questioned by federal regulators not because it doesn't work, but because it works almost too well. The political implications are staggering. If a machine can predict illness with 94% accuracy, what happens to insurance companies? What happens to the hundreds of thousands of medical professionals whose jobs might become redundant? What happens to a healthcare system built on treating disease rather than preventing it? The controversy has caused Medicore's stock price to plummet by 67% in 3 months. Employees are nervous, investors are fleeing, and if Jack can't secure funding from Platinum Ventures today, 500 people will lose their jobs before Christmas. What makes this even more personal for Jack is why he started Medicore in the first place. His father, Robert Turner, a carpenter who worked with his hands for 43 years, died of colon cancer that could have been detected and treated if the right screening had been available. Jack was 19 when he watched his father waste away, promising himself that someday he would create technology that would spare other families that agony. Medicore isn't just his company. It's his father's legacy, his promise to the universe that Robert Turner's death would mean something, would save other fathers, other families, other dreams from being cut short by diseases that should have been caught in time. Tom looks around the empty shop, his eyes landing on Lily. She's standing near the sink, dish towel in hand, watching him with those observant eyes that seem to take in everything. In any other circumstance, he would never consider asking someone with no barista experience to handle the morning rush, much less serve Jack Turner. But these aren't normal circumstances. Lily, he says, his voice thick with desperation, I don't suppose you know anything about making coffee. The question hangs in the air like morning mist. Lily's heart stops. Her hands, suddenly trembling, grip the dish towel tighter. She feels the weight of everyone's expectations, the pressure of a moment that could change everything. This is the moment she's both dreaded and dreamed of for months. The moment when her two worlds, the world of safety and the world of possibility, collide head-on. She looks at her father's La Marzocco, silent in the corner, but somehow seeming to pulse with potential. She thinks of his hands, steady and sure, as he taught her to listen to the coffee, to understand what it wanted to become. She remembers the weight of his keys in her palm, the promise she made but hasn't kept. Part of her wants to say no, to retreat back into the safety of invisibility where mistakes can't hurt anyone and dreams can't be shattered. The sensible part of her mind catalogs all the ways this could go wrong. What if she's forgotten everything she learned in Paris? What if 6 months of grief has stolen her touch? What if she fails so spectacularly that she loses even this humble job? But another part of her, the part that still hears her father's voice calling her little bean, the part that remembers the pride in Pierre Du Bois's eyes when he called her gifted, whispers a different possibility. What if this is why she's here? What if this moment is exactly what her father meant when he said coffee connects hearts? She begins, then stops. Her voice is barely a whisper, but it carries the weight of a decision that will define not just her day, but her destiny. I know a little. Tom's eyes widen with something between hope and desperation. A little? Lily, I need someone who can make a perfect cappuccino for Jack Turner in less than an hour. If we mess this up, we're all in trouble. The weight of responsibility settles on Lily's shoulders like a heavy coat. She spent months hiding, months avoiding the very thing that once brought her joy. But now, with Tom's desperate eyes on her and the morning rush approaching, She faces a choice that will either bury her dreams forever or resurrect them in ways she never imagined possible. Carl Mitchell has been watching this exchange from his security desk near the elevator, and now he approaches with the measured pace of someone who understands that some moments require gentle intervention. "Miss Moore," he says softly, his voice carrying the warmth of someone who's learned that kindness costs nothing but gives everything. "That's a beautiful machine you have there." Lily's head snaps up, surprise flickering across her features. In 6 months of working here, no one has ever acknowledged the La Marzocco as hers. "It was my father's," she says quietly, the words carrying the weight of love and loss. Carl nods slowly, understanding passing between them like a current. "Eleanor, my wife, she always said that some people are born to create things that comfort others." She could see it in their hands, in the way they moved around the kitchen. He pauses, his eyes meeting Lily's with recognition. "She would have liked you." There's something in Carl's tone that speaks to the deepest part of Lily's heart. It's not pity, it's recognition. One soul acknowledging another across the vast space of shared human experience. "I haven't used it in months," Lily admits, her voice barely audible. "Fear," Carl says simply, "is just love wearing a disguise. You're afraid because it mattered to him, because it matters to you." And in that moment, Lily understands that she's not just being asked to make coffee. She's being asked to honor her father's legacy, to step into the person he believed she could become, to transform fear into courage and grief into purpose. The morning rush is coming. Jack Turner is coming. The moment of truth is coming. And for the first time in 6 months, Lily Moore is ready to meet it. Carl Mitchell has been watching this exchange from his security desk near the elevator. He's seen the way Lily looks at that expensive espresso machine, the way she handles coffee beans when she thinks no one is looking. He's noticed the careful way she cleans the brewing equipment, the respect she shows for tools that others take for granted. More importantly, he's seen the grief in her eyes, the same grief he carried for 2 years after Eleanor passed. He recognizes the look of someone who's lost their way, who's forgotten their own worth. Carl walks over to the coffee shop, his security badge jingling softly with each step. Tom looks up, hoping for a solution, but Carl's attention is entirely focused on Lily. "Miss Moore," he says gently, his voice carrying the warmth of someone who's learned that kindness costs nothing but gives everything. "That's a beautiful machine you have there." Lily's head snaps up, surprise flickering across her features. No one at Transtech has ever called her Miss Moore before. Most people don't even know her last name. "It was my father's," she says quietly, the words carrying the weight of love and loss. Carl nods slowly. "Eleanor, my wife, she always said that some people are born to create things that comfort others." She could see it in their hands, in the way they moved around the kitchen. He pauses, his eyes meeting Lily's with understanding. "She would have liked you." There's something in Carl's tone that speaks to the deepest part of Lily's heart. It's not pity, it's recognition. One soul acknowledging another across the vast space of shared human experience. "I haven't used it in months," Lily admits, her voice barely audible. "Fear," Carl says simply, "is just love wearing a disguise. You're afraid because it mattered to him, because it matters to you." Tom shifts uncomfortably, checking his watch. The morning rush is approaching, and he's caught between the practical reality of running a business and the emotional conversation unfolding before him. But Carl isn't finished. "Miss Moore, I've been watching people for 65 years. I've learned to see the difference between those who work and those who serve. You serve, even when you're just washing dishes. You see people, not just customers." The first wave of customers begins to trickle in. Early risers who need their caffeine fix before the day begins. Tom glances nervously between them and Lily, knowing that in just 45 minutes, Jack Turner will walk through that door. Lily looks at the growing line of customers, then at Tom's desperate face, then at the La Marzocco waiting in the corner. Her father's voice echoes in her memory. "Coffee isn't just a drink, Lily. It's a bridge between hearts." "What if I mess up?" she whispers to Carl. Carl's weathered face creases into a gentle smile. What if you don't? The simple question hangs in the air like a prayer. What if you don't? What if instead of focusing on all the ways things could go wrong, you focused on the possibility that they could go right? Lily takes a deep breath, the kind of breath that seems to draw strength from the very air itself. She unties her apron, washes her hands with the deliberate care of a surgeon preparing for operation, and walks toward her father's machine. "Tom," she says, her voice still quiet but carrying a new note of determination, "I'll need you to handle the register." And Carl. She turns to look at the security guard, who's become her unexpected champion. "Would you mind staying close? I might need some encouragement." Carl's eyes crinkle with pride. "It would be my honor, Miss Moore." The La Marzocco comes to life with a gentle hum that seems to resonate in Lily's chest. She hasn't heard this sound in 6 months, but her body remembers. Her hands, initially trembling, begin to move with muscle memory born of countless hours of practice. The first customer approaches, a woman from the accounting department whom Lily has watched every morning for months. She orders a simple latte, her tone brisk and businesslike. But as Lily begins to work, something magical happens. The grinding of beans, the precise tamping of espresso, the careful steaming of milk. It's like watching a musician return to their instrument after a long absence. Each movement is deliberate, respectful, reverent. The woman waits, initially impatient, checking her phone. But gradually, she becomes fascinated by the ritual unfolding before her. She watches Lily's hands work with the confidence of someone who truly understands their craft. When Lily places the finished latte on the counter, the woman takes one sip and stops. Her eyes widen with surprise. "This is," she begins, then shakes her head in amazement. "This is the best coffee I've ever had in this building." "What did you do differently?" Lily's cheeks flush with quiet pride. "I listened to what the coffee wanted to become," she says simply. The woman doesn't fully understand the answer, but she understands the result. Word spreads quickly through the line. People begin to linger, to actually look at Lily instead of through her. For the first time in months, she feels visible. But in the back of her mind, Lily knows that the real test is coming. At 8:15 exactly, Jack Turner will walk through that door. The man whose opinion could make or break not just her morning, but her future. Carl watches from his post, his heart swelling with pride and concern in equal measure. He's seen what Lily can do, but he also knows the weight of expectation she's carrying. The grief of losing her father, the fear of failing, the pressure of being suddenly visible after months of invisibility. 8:10. 5 minutes until Jack Turner's arrival. Lily looks at the espresso machine, her hands steady now, her breathing calm. She's found her rhythm, remembered her purpose. But the biggest test of her life is about to walk through that door. 8:14. The morning rush has settled into a steady rhythm, but Lily can feel the energy in the room change. Even the regular customers seem to sense that something significant is about to happen. Tom positions himself near the register, his hands slightly trembling as he pretends to organize receipt paper. Carl has moved closer to the coffee counter, his presence both protective and encouraging. 8:15 exactly. The glass doors of the coffee shop swing open, and Jack Turner steps inside. He's exactly what you'd expect from a tech CEO under pressure. Immaculately dressed in a charcoal gray suit, carrying a leather briefcase that probably costs more than most people make in a month. His face is a mask of controlled tension, his eyes focused on some middle distance that speaks of a mind consumed with the weight of impossible decisions. Jack Turner is 41 years old, and today might be the last day he's the CEO of anything. The company he's built from nothing, Medicore Tech, is hanging by a thread. Their revolutionary AI diagnostic software, which could revolutionize healthcare by detecting diseases years before symptoms appear, has been questioned by federal regulators. Not because it doesn't work, but because it works too well. The implications are staggering, the politics complicated, the financial pressure crushing. In exactly 45 minutes, he'll sit across from Margaret Chun, David Rodriguez, and Dr. Sarah Kim from Platinum Ventures. If he can't convince them to invest $50 million, 500 families will lose their primary source of income by Christmas. But here's what makes Jack Turner human instead of just another corporate executive. He's terrified. Behind that mask of controlled confidence beats the heart of someone who started this company not for money, but because he watched his own father die of a disease that could have been detected early if the right technology had existed. "Cappuccino," he says to Tom, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "Extra shot, precise temperature. I have exactly 30 minutes. Tom's eyes dart to Lily, who has gone very still behind the espresso machine. This is it, the moment that will define everything. Jack Turner doesn't even look at her. To him, she's just another service worker, invisible in the way that people become invisible when they serve rather than lead. He's checking his phone, scrolling through emails, preparing for the most important meeting of his life. But Lily is watching him, really watching him. She sees the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenches when he thinks no one is looking. She notices the slight tremor in his hands as he scrolls through his phone. She recognizes the signs of someone carrying a burden too heavy for one person to bear. Her father had looked the same way in those final weeks before the stroke. The weight of responsibility, the fear of letting people down, the crushing pressure of holding other people's dreams in your hands. Lily begins to work. She selects beans with the care of someone choosing a gift for a beloved friend. Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, bright, complex, with notes of lemon and chocolate that dance on the tongue. She grinds them to the perfect consistency, tamping with just the right pressure. As the espresso pulls, she steams milk to exactly 140 degrees, hot enough to create the perfect microfoam, cool enough to preserve the sweetness. Her movements are meditative, almost ceremonial. Carl watches from his station, his heart pounding with anticipation and pride. He's seen Lily work before, but this is different. This is her claiming her place, stepping into her power, honoring her father's legacy while creating her own. The cappuccino is perfect. Lily creates a delicate leaf pattern in the foam. Not for show, but because beauty matters, because someone who's carrying the weight of the world deserves to have their coffee served with love. She places the cup on the counter with reverent care. "Sir," she says softly. Jack looks up from his phone, distracted, reaching for the cup without really seeing her. But then he takes that first sip. Time stops. Jack's eyes close involuntarily as the flavors hit his palate. Perfectly balanced, rich without being bitter, complex without being overwhelming. But more than that, there's something in this coffee that speaks to a memory buried deep in his childhood. He's suddenly 8 years old again, sitting in his father's small diner in Brooklyn. His father, who worked 16-hour days to keep the family afloat, who always took a moment to make his coffee with the same reverence that Lily just showed. His father, who died too young from a disease that could have been prevented if someone had cared enough to look deeper. Jack opens his eyes and, for the first time, really looks at Lily. Not through her, not past her, but at her. He sees the careful attention she's paid to his coffee, the pride in her posture, the quiet dignity of someone who does their work with love. "Who made this?" he asks, his voice softer than before. "I did, sir," Lily replies, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. Jack takes another sip and another. With each taste, he's transported back to a time when coffee was made by someone who cared about the person drinking it, not just the transaction. He pauses, searching for words that can capture what he's experiencing. "This is the best cappuccino I've had in years." "Where did you learn to make coffee like this?" "Paris, sir. École du Café. But mostly I learned from my father." There's something in the way she says father that resonates with Jack's own grief. A recognition passes between them. The look of two people who understand what it means to lose someone who shaped who they are. "He taught you well," Jack says simply, but the words carry the weight of genuine respect. For a moment, the busy coffee shop fades away. The pressure of the impending meeting, the weight of corporate responsibility, the fear of failure, all of it recedes in the face of this simple human connection over a perfectly made cup of coffee. Jack pulls out his phone, and instead of checking emails, he does something he hasn't done in months. He calls his assistant and asks her to delay his meeting prep by 10 minutes. Not because he's running late, but because he wants to savor this moment, this coffee, this reminder of what it means to be truly cared for. Other customers in the coffee shop have noticed the exchange. They see Jack Turner, the intimidating CEO who usually breezes through without acknowledging anyone, actually having conversation with Lily. Suddenly, she's not invisible anymore. She's someone worthy of Jack Turner's attention. "What's your name?" Jack asks. "Lily Moore, sir." "Lily." He says her name like he's testing how it feels in his mouth. "Thank you, Lily. You've given me exactly what I needed this morning." She's not sure if he means the coffee or something deeper, but it doesn't matter. For the first time in months, she feels seen, valued, recognized for who she is rather than dismissed for who she isn't. But as Jack turns to leave, rushing toward the elevator in his crucial meeting, he doesn't notice the small black USB drive that slips from his briefcase pocket onto the counter. It lands silently next to the sugar packets, unremarkable except for the small white label that reads, "Investor Pitch, Final, Confidential." Lily notices it immediately. Her trained eye for detail, honed by months of cleaning and organizing, catches the movement. She picks up the USB drive, reading the label, and her heart sinks. She knows what this means. This tiny device contains the presentation that could save 500 jobs. Without it, Jack Turner will walk into the most important meeting of his life empty-handed. "Mr. Turner," she calls out, but he's already at the elevator, his mind focused on the challenge ahead. The elevator doors close before her voice can reach him. Lily stands there, holding the USB drive, feeling the weight of someone else's dream in her palm. She could give it to Tom, let him handle it through proper channels. She could call security, follow protocol, stay invisible. But Carl's words echo in her mind. Fear is just love wearing a disguise. She loves her job, humble as it is. She loves the people who depend on her to make their morning coffee. She loves the memory of her father and the promise she made to him. And somehow, inexplicably, she already cares about this man who saw her, truly saw her, for the first time in months. Tom has been watching this entire exchange with growing amazement. He's never seen Lily interact with customers like this. Never seen her demonstrate the kind of skill that could create a perfect cappuccino on her first try. But more than that, he's never seen Jack Turner look at any of the service staff with anything resembling respect. "Lily," Tom says quietly, "what are you going to do?" She looks at the USB drive in her hand, then at the elevator where Jack disappeared, then at Carl, who's watching her with encouraging eyes. "I'm going to return this to him," she says, her voice growing stronger with each word. "But employees aren't allowed on the executive floors," Tom protests. "There are security protocols, access restrictions. You could get in serious trouble." Carl steps forward. "Sometimes," he says gently, "doing the right thing requires us to step outside our comfort zone." Lily thinks about her father, who took risks to build his business. She thinks about Jack Turner, who probably took enormous risks to build his company. She thinks about the 500 families whose futures might depend on this small piece of plastic and metal in her hand. "I have to try," she says simply. She unties her apron, smooths her hair, and walks toward the elevator with a determination that surprises everyone, including herself. She's no longer the invisible dishwasher hiding in the corner. She's someone with a purpose, someone who matters, someone who can make a difference. Carl follows her to the elevator, his security badge in hand. "I'll go with you," he says, "just in case." As they wait for the elevator, Lily catches her reflection in the polished steel doors. The woman looking back at her is someone she barely recognizes, confident, purposeful, alive with possibility. The elevator doors open, and Lily steps inside. She's no longer running from her dreams. She's running toward them. The 25th floor of Transtech Tower is a different world. Here, the walls are lined with awards and accolades. The furniture is sleek and expensive, and the air itself seems to hum with the energy of high-stakes decision-making. Lily has never been this high in the building before. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she can see the entire city spread out below, a view that makes her feel both insignificant and powerful at the same time. Carl guides her through the maze of corridors with the confidence of someone who knows every inch of this building. Other employees glance at them curiously. What is a security guard doing escorting a coffee shop worker through the executive wing? Mr. Turner's office is just ahead, Carl says quietly. Are you ready? Lily nods, though her heart is pounding so hard she's sure everyone in the building can hear it. She's about to knock on the door of one of the most powerful people in the building, interrupting what is undoubtedly an intense preparation session for the most important meeting of his career. Through the partially open door, they can hear Jack's voice, tight with barely controlled panic. Where is it? Where's the damn USB? I had it this morning. I know I had it. Another voice, sharp and impatient. Sir, the Platinum Ventures team will be here in 15 minutes. We need to access those files now. Lily recognizes the second voice. It's Eric Wells, Jack's assistant, whom she's seen in the coffee shop before. He's always treated the service staff with barely concealed disdain, speaking to them like they're invisible or worse, incompetent. Lily raises her hand and knocks gently on the door frame. Come in. Jack's voice is sharp with stress. She steps into the office, Carl behind her, and the scene that greets her is one of barely controlled chaos. Jack is rifling through his briefcase, papers scattered across his desk. Eric is frantically checking jacket pockets and calling Jack's driver to search the car. Both men look up, surprised to see Lily standing in the doorway. I'm sorry to interrupt, she says, her voice quiet but steady. But I think you might be looking for this. She holds up the USB drive. Jack's entire body sags with relief. He crosses the room in 3 quick strides, his hand reaching for the device like a lifeline. Oh, thank God, he breathes. Where did you find it? On the counter, sir. By the sugar packets. You must have dropped it when you were leaving. Jack takes the USB, his fingers closing around it like he's holding the most precious thing in the world. Which in a way he is. Lily, he says, and there's something in his voice that's different from before. Not just gratitude, but genuine respect. You have no idea what this means. This presentation, it's everything. The future of our company, the jobs of 500 people, everything depends on what's in this drive. Eric, meanwhile, is looking at Lily with undisguised annoyance. How did you get up here? Service staff aren't supposed to be on the executive floors. Carl steps forward. I escorted her, Eric. She was returning something important to Mr. Turner. That's against protocol, Eric snaps. There are proper channels for this kind of thing. But Jack raises his hand, silencing his assistant. Eric, this woman just saved our company. I don't care about protocol. He turns back to Lily, his expression softening. How can I thank you? What can I do to repay this? Lily shakes her head. You don't need to do anything, sir. I just wanted to make sure you had what you needed. Jack plugs the USB into his computer, and the screen fills with the presentation that represents months of work, research, and hope. Charts showing the effectiveness of their diagnostic AI, testimonials from early users, financial projections that could change the future of healthcare. 15 minutes, Eric says, checking his watch. The Platinum Ventures team will be here in 15 minutes. Jack nods, but his attention is still focused on Lily. You made that incredible cappuccino this morning, and now you've saved this presentation. Who are you, really? I'm just someone who pays attention, she says simply. I notice things that others might miss. That's not just anything, Jack replies. That's a gift. He pauses, an idea forming in his mind. Lily, I have a proposition for you. This meeting with Platinum Ventures, it's going to determine the future of our company. These are people who make decisions based on more than just numbers. They want to see the culture of the company, the character of the people they're investing in. Lily listens, not sure where this is going. Would you be willing to serve the coffee for this meeting? I know it's not your usual job, but after tasting what you can do, I think you might be exactly what we need. Lily feels her heart racing. Part of her wants to say no, to retreat to the safety of her dishwashing station. But another part of her, the part that remembers her father's hands guiding hers, the part that felt alive when she was making coffee this morning, wants to say yes. I don't know if I'm qualified for something that important, she says. You're the most qualified person I know, Jack replies. You understand that coffee isn't just a drink. It's a connection. It's care made visible. That's exactly what I want these investors to experience. Carl places a gentle hand on her shoulder. Miss Moore, your father will be proud. Lily looks around the office. At Jack, whose entire future hangs in the balance. At Eric, whose disapproval is written clearly on his face. At Carl, whose belief in her has never wavered. Yes, she says, the word coming out stronger than she expected. Yes, I'll do it. 20 minutes later, Lily is back in a coffee shop, but everything has changed. She's no longer the invisible dishwasher hiding in the corner. She's preparing for the most important coffee service of her life, and she's doing it with the skill and confidence of someone who has finally remembered who she is. Tom watches in amazement as she selects beans with the care of a jeweler choosing diamonds. She's chosen a blend that will tell a story. Ethiopian beans for brightness and hope, Colombian for steadiness and strength, a touch of Guatemalan for depth and complexity. As she works, other employees begin to gather around the coffee shop. Word has spread through the building that something extraordinary is happening. The quiet dishwasher has somehow become the center of attention, and people are curious to see what she can do. But Lily is focused entirely on her task. She's thinking about her father, about the promise she made to him, about the moment when she'll serve coffee to people who hold the future of 500 families in their hands. She's thinking about Jack Turner, who saw her this morning, really saw her, and trusted her with something precious. She's thinking about Carl, whose quiet encouragement gave her the courage to step outside her comfort zone. Most of all, she's thinking about the coffee itself, about how each cup she makes is an opportunity to connect with another human being, to provide comfort, to show care through the simple act of service done with love. As she steams milk to the perfect temperature, as she watches the espresso pull with the golden crema that indicates perfection, Lily realizes something profound. She's not just making coffee. She's reclaiming her dreams. She's honoring her father's memory. She's stepping into the person she was always meant to be. The coffee is ready. The moment has arrived. The 26th floor conference room is a temple of corporate power. The table is polished to a mirror shine. The chairs are leather and chrome, and the view through the windows encompasses half the city. But today, this room will be transformed by something much simpler and more powerful than expensive furniture. It will be transformed by the perfect cup of coffee, made with love. Margaret Shun, David Rodriguez, and Dr. Sarah Kim from Platinum Ventures are exactly what you'd expect from people who control hundreds of millions of dollars in investment capital. They're impeccably dressed, sharply intelligent, and have the kind of confidence that comes from always being the smartest people in the room. They've come to TransTech expecting to hear another desperate pitch from another failing company. The reports they've read about Medicor Tech are troubling. Regulatory questions, public relations disasters, financial pressures. They're here more out of due diligence than genuine interest. But then Lily enters the room, and something shifts. She moves with quiet dignity, her service card arranged with the same care that a master chef would arrange a tasting menu. Each cup is perfectly prepared, each saucer aligned, each small spoon positioned with intention. Jack introduces her simply. This is Lily Moore, our coffee specialist. As Lily serves each cup, she makes eye contact with each person. Not the deferent, downward glance of a typical service worker, but the confident, caring gaze of someone who understands her worth. Ethiopian blend with Colombian base, she explains softly to Margaret Shun. The brightness will complement the richness, and the finish has notes of chocolate and citrus that I thought you might enjoy. Margaret takes a sip, and her eyebrows rise in surprise. This isn't just good coffee. This is exceptional coffee, prepared by someone who understands the craft at the highest level. Dr. Sarah Kim, who has a PhD in neuroscience, is particularly intrigued. This is remarkable, she says to Lily. You understand the science of flavor pairing. I understand that different people need different things, Lily replies. Coffee is just one way to provide what someone needs. Jack begins his presentation, but something has changed in the room. The investors are relaxed, engaged, present in a way they weren't when they first arrived. The coffee has done what Lily intended. It's created a connection, a moment of shared appreciation for something done well. As Jack talks about Medicore's diagnostic AI, about the potential to detect diseases years before symptoms appear, about the lives that could be saved and the families that could be kept whole, the investors listen with the kind of attention that comes from feeling cared for. The presentation ends. The investors ask their questions, review their notes, and step outside to confer. Jack, Lily, and Carl wait in the conference room, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. 20 minutes later, Margaret Chin returns with her colleagues. "Mr. Turner," she says, "we've made our decision. Platinum Ventures will invest $50 million in Medicore tech." The room erupts in quiet celebration. Jack's relief is palpable, his gratitude overwhelming. 500 jobs have been saved, 500 families will have security, and the dream of early disease detection will become reality. But Margaret Chin isn't finished. "I have to tell you," she continues, "that what impressed us most wasn't just the technology. It was the culture. The way you treated your staff, the attention to detail, the understanding that small things matter. That coffee service was extraordinary, and it told us everything we need to know about your company's values." 6 months later, Lily Moore stands in her own coffee shop on the ground floor of Transtech Tower. The sign above the door reads, "Lily's Brew," where every cup tells a story, and underneath, in smaller letters, "In memory of Robert Moore, who taught me that coffee is a bridge between hearts." The shop is bustling with activity, but it's different from the corporate rush of before. People linger here, they talk, they connect. It's become a community space where the executives and the service staff, the young and the old, the powerful and the humble, all come together over the simple pleasure of a perfectly made cup of coffee. Carl Mitchell sits at his usual table by the window, no longer the building's security guard, but Lily's unofficial advisor and friend. He's wearing a cardigan that Eleanor knitted for him years ago, and his eyes crinkle with pride as he watches Lily work. Jack Turner stops by every morning, still at 8:15 exactly, but now he stays for a few minutes to chat. Medicore tech is thriving. Their diagnostic AI is saving lives, and he's learned that the best part of his day isn't the high-stakes meetings or the financial reports. It's the few minutes of human connection over a cup of coffee made with love. A young woman approaches the counter, nervous and uncertain. She's clearly new to the corporate world, intimidated by the sleek surroundings and the confident people around her. "I don't know what to order," she says quietly. "I'm new here, and I don't really know anything about coffee." Lily smiles, the same warm, genuine smile that Carl gave her on that transformative Tuesday morning months ago. "That's okay," she says gently. "I'll make you something special, something that will help you feel at home." As she works, she thinks about her father, about the promise she made to him, about the moment when she decided to step out of her comfort zone and into her destiny. The young woman takes a sip of her coffee, and her eyes widen with surprise and delight. "This is perfect," she says. "How did you know exactly what I needed?" Lily's answer is simple, but it carries the weight of hard-won wisdom. "I listened. To you, to the coffee, to what the moment needed. And then I had the courage to step forward and create it."